All right, this is the new Zoom lady. So can everyone hear me okay? You guys just maybe pop in the chat to let me know if you can hear me. Good? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So I am going to share my screen and we can get started. All right, and if we can just do one more kind of yes in the chat, can you just let me know if you see the screen? Yes, amazing. All right, so we are going to get started. So welcome to the Ask the Expert today. We're going to be talking about flow facilitation, which is what I do in my work for efficient online business management. So let's just move forward. So my name is Jennifer Young. You can call me Jen. I'm an intuitive business advisor, which means that I coach and advise business owners and entrepreneurs on running and growing their business, but always through the intuitive channel. And what I mean by intuitive is through more of our right brain, because most of us tend to kind of lead and run our businesses very much from our brain, which is fantastic. Our brains are great. But a lot of us entrepreneurs are highly creative and highly intuitive people. And there's a lot of really, there's a lot of like deep wisdom that we have inside of us that can really have a huge impact on how we move our business forward. And when we lead from more of an intuitive way first and use kind of our brains as like a support system, we tend to experience a lot more growth and success. Because when we're functioning only from our brains, we're functioning from a much more limited kind of place. And when we open ourselves up to our instincts, to like our inner knowings and like those nudges, those creative urges that we get, those curiosities, sometimes it's just like that person that you have a feeling that you should connect, or that product that you think you should develop. Like all of that comes from our instinct, from our intuition. And so I really support entrepreneurs and learning to listen to that so they can expand and their business even more and achieve even more flow and success. I'm also the host of the podcast called Finding Your Flow. I've been an entrepreneur for a little over 12 years now. I've been doing a mix of business management, business implementation, coaching, and advising. So I've had both my hands in more of the strategic side of things and in the practical side of things. And I'm also a UN consultant and the community manager for ecomConnect. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. This topic is very much of a passion for me. I really, really love talking about business management, because what I believe is that when we can get our business in a nice flow and things are streamlined and automated and functioning in a way that just feels very organic and easy, the business owner or the CEO has more space to then focus on the big vision. And so that is kind of my goal. All right, so let's talk a little bit about efficient business management for successful growth and well-being. And I talk about both because it's really important that you, as the leader of this business, is feeling centered, clear, aligned, energized. And oftentimes what we find is business owners that are feeling overwhelmed and stressed and confused and lacking of clarity. So it's really important for me that the business owner is feeling at their best in their work, and that then has a ripple effect on the rest of the business and the rest of the team. So why it's so important to have efficient business management is that it clears mental space for what matters most. So like I was saying before, you know, the CEO is the leader and the visionary in the business. It's he or she is the person who has the big vision, the creative ideas, the creative flow. And so when we can systemize and automate and streamline business management, it really frees up so much space for the business owner to then focus on what matters most, which is the growth of the business, the strategy of the business, and even just the networking piece. Like you as the business owner, you're the one that people want to connect with. And so freeing yourself from all of that stuff that gets stuck in your head and all of the tasks and the things that you need to do, and the strategies, it's like taking all that and putting it into a systemized process allows you to keep more space and energy to do what is really essential to move your business forward. So the other thing that's really important for the growth and so the successful growth of your business and your well-being is to give all of your business activities a place and a purpose to remove that mental clutter. And that then, organically creates flow. So we're going to be looking, I'm actually going to give you guys a behind the scenes of my project management system today. And I want to show you how amazing it can be to take all of this stuff that's in your head, the ideas, the next things that need to do, the planning, the strategy, all that stuff, and put it somewhere in a way that's organized and purposeful, and then has an actual next step. When you get that out of your brain, out of your mind, then someone can actually take those things and do something with them. So we're giving all of business activities a place and a purpose so that things can flow. The other thing I want to mention is that, and this is something I really strongly believe in, is that freedom comes from structure. Now, I want to just differentiate when we talk about structure versus rigidity. So I'm not talking about being very rigid in how you think things need to happen. But when you have a basic structure in your business, that actually creates more freedom for you, more mental freedom, more time freedom, more financial freedom, because it's like everything has a place and a purpose, like we were talking about before. So creating this foundational structure in your business is not going to give you freedom just now, but it's also going to create freedom for you to then be able to grow and have more success. It's really hard for a business to grow when the foundational systems are not in place to support that expansion. And so that is also the purpose of efficient business management. And just kind of like I was talking about before, it's really important to, as a business owner, to just stay very curious and keep tapping into your creativity and capacity to take risks to move forward. I'm going to talk about that a little bit further down the line about taking calculated risks. But, you as the person leading the business is the one who's going to be using your creativity to move the business forward, tapping into creative ideas, getting curious about maybe a new innovative way of moving your business forward, or connecting with the right people, or putting out the next product or service. So this, again, whole structure that you create gives you more space to then do that as the CEO. And just to share an example of a successful intuitive entrepreneur that I really look up to very much, he's always been very much of a business mentor for me, is Richard Branson. He's a highly, highly, highly intuitive entrepreneur, and he has always, he's always very much listened to his instinct and taken calculated risks. And he's such a successful entrepreneur today, and also creating a huge impact in the world. And just a little note, if ever you guys are inspired to learn from him, he's published a lot of really great books. And in all of the books, there are so many wonderful teachings for business owners and CEOs that can really help you step more into this, this way of doing business that's a bit more intuitive. All right, so, oops, just moving on to the next one. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about, because when we're talking about structure, it's not just structure of the tasks and the activities in the business, but it's also of the people that are part of your business, if you have a team, and their place in the business. So I kind of see a business having three categories, and these three categories are really important when it comes to business management, because as your business grows, you're going to need to know like kind of who is the next person that needs to come into your business. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit distracted, just letting people in at the same time. So the first category of people in the business is the leaders and advisors. So I want to talk about this for both like startup businesses and businesses that are a little bit further down the line so that it's relevant to everybody. So when we talk about leaders and advisors, at the beginning, when you're running your business or just starting a business, you are going to be, the CEO is going to be the leader and advisor of the business. So, you know, we don't always have the financial funds to bring on a team at the beginning. And so you're going to see as we move through these three categories, you're going to be very much the person who is wearing a lot of the hats, and that's normal. This is actually, if you're in this stage of your business, this is actually a really good time to start setting up systems right away. Even if your business does not have a lot of activity, it's actually even more beneficial to do this at the beginning because you don't have the expansion that's happening at the same time as you trying to organize things. And so you can use this time and space to really create a nice foundation for your business and for your future team. And then if your business is at another level and you actually have a team, the leader and advisor in your business can then be a business coach or a mentor, right? And so that really helps the business owner sort of have a strategic partner to help them, you know, bounce ideas off of, talk about strategy, and really have like that person to talk about the bigger vision things in the business, the bigger picture things in the business. So that's kind of the first category of people and their place in the business. The second category of people is what I call the managers in the business. And again, at the beginning, if you're just starting off, it's going to be the business owner, the CEO. You're going to be both leading and managing the business. And what I recommend in general is like, as soon as you feel like your business is at a level where you can release yourself a little bit from doing all the things, it's really great to do that so that you can focus on really the growth of your business after that. And and we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but being less in like the fine details of the business, because that's where business owners can get really kind of lost and overwhelmed. And then once your business is at like another level and you're growing and you can bring on a team, this is when you would probably bring on either a business manager or an operations manager. And this person is actually going to take care of the flow of the day-to-day activities in the business. And this is where we start to really dive into business management a little bit more, because, you know, at the beginning, the business owner does the leading and the managing. So the business owner is ensuring the flow of the business moving forward on a day-to-day basis. But I'm a really big believer that as soon as you can remove yourself from that, it is really, really efficient to have a business manager or an operations manager on the team who can then take care of the next category of people, which I call the executors. They can take care of, you know, the team members, the tasks, the deadlines, the client care, the project management, all of those things. So that would be when your business is starting to grow and you have sort of the financial flexibility to bring on someone like that. And these are not necessarily in order, in the sense that I would actually probably recommend, if your business is growing, to bring on a business or operations manager before potentially a coach or a mentor, because you getting out of the small day-to-day details is actually going to be more important. Okay, so the next category is what I call the executors. So people actually implementing and doing the execution of in the business. The managers do some implementing, but less. So the people implementing things in the business are going to be much more the executors. So again, At the beginning, it's going to be the CEO. And then as the business grows, this is where you're going to start to bring on, assistants. Now we have very much people working virtually. So a virtual assistant, bringing on maybe a bookkeeper, some subcontractors, technical assistants, web designers, all those kinds of things, social media managers. Like there's a lot of people that can really fall under the execution category. And those are the people that are going to be taking care of the very fine details in your business. And these are the people who are going to have the most tasks assigned to them in your project management system, which we're going to look at the end when we do the virtual tour. All right, so this is just to give you an idea of like when you think about the ecosystem of your business and how things are structured. This is sort of the basics of how that can look. If ever you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I do see the chat at the same time as I'm doing this. And if not, we can get to some questions at the end. And just as some people popped in a little bit later, so just welcome to everyone who just joined us. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about bottlenecks now in the business. Bottlenecks are where things get stuck. Okay, so what are the things in a business that causes the flow to break, or for the business to be stagnated, or for the team to get stuck, for things to just not be flowing forward smoothly? And I think these are like my favorite things to talk about because they're so common in so many businesses. And the first thing is the business manager over micromanaging the team, or trying to over micromanage the business, and just the fear of letting go and really letting your team kind of pick up the tasks and the responsibilities in the business. And this very often gets in the way because the business owner has a very clear idea of where he or she wants to go. Okay, and they have a very clear idea of the big picture. And the business owner is also the person who is going to be the best at making connections, networking, innovating, and thinking about the strategy for the next steps forward. And what happens when the business manager is micromanaging too many small details is that they get disconnected from the big picture and the most essential things that need to happen for the business to move forward. And then when they get caught in the small details and they're micromanaging, they tend to fall very much in overwhelm and stress. And then it literally creates like a stopping point in the business. Because at the end of the day, when you have a team, if your vision is very clear and you have a really good communication system with your team, you should be able to really step back and let go. And your team should be able to really move things forward without you being involved so much. But that is going to happen when there's a really good communication system. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The other thing that can create a bottleneck in the business is the business owner trying to stay safe a little bit too much. So I'm a big believer that growth happens outside of your comfort zone, and in taking calculated risks, like we were talking about before when I was talking about Richard Branson. So every time we want our business to expand and experience more success, we need to stretch ourselves a little bit as entrepreneurs and stretch the business a little bit. So it's like imagining, I'm going to give like a really clear example. If you want to have people over for dinner and you want to have, 10 people over for dinner, but you only have a table that can comfortably sit 5 people, the experience of bringing the 10 people into a 5-person table is going to be really uncomfortable, and it's probably not going to be a very big success in terms of like hosting a really nice evening. So it's like, if you imagine your business, if you want it to grow to its next level, whatever that means, whether it's having a bigger team or more revenue or whatever that is, you need to like create a larger container so that the business can grow into that. And so oftentimes, I just out of fear of like, what will happen if I take this risk? What will happen if I invest in this thing? People often tend to stay safe, and that'll create a bottleneck in the business, and sort of kind of kill the potential for growth. The other one that I want to talk about that I really love is long-term planning. And I know this is going to sound sort of strange, that long-term planning can actually create a bottleneck in your business. But there's a quote that I really love that says, man plans and God laughs. And I love this quote because it's really such a good reminder that we can plan long-term. And I think it's good to have a vision of where you're going, but planning too long in advance is keeping you away from what is happening right here, right now in your business. What is the potential that is right in front of you right now? And it can get us too caught up in like the planning instead of like actually being focused where you are and taking action where you are. So long-term planning can also create a lot of procrastination. So you need to find a balance between shorter term planning and longer term planning. So again, having the big vision, which is often further out into the future, but then planning in smaller chunks. And I really believe in quarterly planning. And there's a book that is fantastic. It's called The 12-Week Year. And it really encourages entrepreneurs to imagine that your year in business is only 12 weeks. So it's 3 months, quarterly planning. And so you kind of plan and strategize for the 3 months ahead. And those 3 months, it's a lot more realistic for you to know what could potentially happen. Whereas if you think about 12 months down the line, so much can happen in 12 months. And so we can plan, but things will probably look a lot different 12 months later than we actually originally thought. So I encourage you to plan in shorter increments. And you can actually use this even in your business management. And I'm going to show you in Asana after how you can actually have like a quarterly planning project and really look at things in smaller chunks. And then you can also look at your year ahead, but keeping your main attention and focus the next 3 months. Okay, so the next point is just generally trust. So staying in your lane, letting your team step into their leadership and in their zone of genius to amplify the business. So we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, about the micromanaging. Staying in your lane means like your team, the people, like the business managers and the executors on your team, they do not have the potential that you have to run a business and have the big vision and move it forward. So just learning to trust in your team and empowering them to take leadership and to take responsibility and take ownership of their role is really going to amplify the growth of your business. And knowing that like each person on your team has their own little zone of genius, and letting them step into that. Because for me, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. It's one of my favorite movies. And in the movie, he says, it takes teamwork to make a dream work. And I really believe in that. Most very successful entrepreneurs have leveraged their team and bringing, I really love that movie too. They learned really quickly to leverage people on their team and people's potential to really help their business grow. And I know we have Rashina here with us today, who's also a UN consultant with us. And she is actually a really amazing example of an entrepreneur who does this with her team. So highlighting you, Rashina, right now. Oops, I have that one twice. So sorry, I duplicated that one. So those are the main bottlenecks that I often see with my clients and the businesses that I work with that get in the way. Okay, so let's move on. So we're going to talk here a little bit about communication now. Communication is probably one of the most important things when it comes to efficient business management and keeping flow in your day-to-day and avoiding bottlenecks, but also avoiding breakdowns. When there's clear channels of communication, everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be doing it. And it really makes it so much easier for a business to move forward. So when you start to grow your team, if you don't have a team yet and you're on your own, these are still things that are really important to think about, because when you do bring someone on, you want to set this up really well as soon as people get started. So when you do have a team, again, like I was saying, we want the business owner to try to stay out of the small details of the day-to-day business, because they will get lost and it will take them away from their zone of genius, which is whatever the business that you started and the mission and the why behind that. But it is really important for the team members to have a way to communicate and keep the CEO or the business owner in the loop on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So you want to have a way for your team to give you updates so that you don't need to go digging into the project management systems and into the details to know what's happening. You can trust them, you can empower your team, but you also know in every moment what is happening in the business, where you're at, what needs attention, where growth is about to happen, or where the business is stuck, where there's bottlenecks. And so I would really recommend that you choose that way of receiving the updates in a way that feels good to you as the business owner. So you might prefer getting, an audio update at the end of every day from your business manager or, someone on your team. And so I recommend, for example, Voxer, which is it's kind of like WhatsApp. So Voxer or WhatsApp can work for this. And at the end of the day, the person managing the team could just send you kind of a quick and dirty update by audio. You end your day. You're not left hanging, you know where you're at, and you can sleep easy, and you know where you're getting started the next day. If you prefer written updates, you can ask your team member or your team members to send you an email update. You can use Asana. I'm going to show you how we use Asana also to do some updates. So this is a really important for the CEO to feel empowered, confident, and to stay in his or her lane. The other thing that's really important when it comes to business management is having clear guidelines and expectations for the team. So you want the team to know what happens where, when, how, and by who, okay? So for example, and I'm going to show you guys an example of this after, in my business, our team has a clear expectation that all quick communications, when we need a fast answer from people, that always happens in Slack. So we know to keep our Slack open, because if throughout the day someone is stuck or someone has a question or someone needs me, that is where they're going to communicate it. It's more of like I kind of see Slack almost like Twitter. It's kind of like an in the moment live communication system. When it's a follow-up on a task or a project, and it's something that like we don't want to lose that information, we want it to stay, and this is where I talk about like streamlining, we want it to stay in the feed of the actual task. My team knows that that goes into Asana, okay? Because that's, we don't want to just pop that into Slack and then lose it. We want to see the stream of evolution within the task, and that's going to go in the comments of the task in Asana, which I'm going to show you guys. The other thing that you can do in your business, and again, this is starting from the beginning, is really helpful because then it's not such a heavy lift, is creating some SOPs for your business. So these are standard operating procedures. And these are literally just documents, like a Google Doc that, sorry guys, I have dogs, so you might hear them every once in a while. It's a Google Doc that literally is a walkthrough of like a step-by-step of like, this is how this is done in the business. This is how, I'll give you an example. Let's say in terms of client management, if you have a process for when you have a client that's not satisfied or upset with a product or service, for example, and you want your team to go through like a specific process every time that happens, you can create an SOP and really clarify those steps in that process so that when it happens, the team knows exactly where to go to follow the steps so that things are handled in a way that feels good for you. The other thing for communications is just having systems for easy management of your team and your business type. So this is at the end of this webinar, I'm going to give you on the last slide, there's going to be a whole bunch of resources of all kinds of different systems that you can use for both communications and project management. I'm going to be showing you Slack and Asana today because those are from just honestly in the last 12 years, the ones that I've found the most efficient. But there's a lot of different kinds of systems that are made for a lot of different kinds of personalities and ways of working. So it's important to find one that feels good to you and your team based on the kind of business that you have and the kind of activity that is happening in your business on a day-to-day. So yeah, we're going to talk about Asana, Slack, WhatsApp can also be a really great tool for communications. And now there's WhatsApp Business, which I have in the resources. And if there's a lot of like written content and client management, I think Slack is really good for that because it's just like a really kind of easy system to have a lot of information flowing through the business. And if you have a lot of audio communications, WhatsApp and Boxer. Okay, moving on to the next. Before I continue, I just want to take a pause and see if there's any questions in the chat. So I'm just going to give you guys a second there if you want to pop something in the chat. And if not, we can do a check-in at the end. Everyone okay? Yes, all right. Oh, we have someone else popping in. Okay, so now we're going to start to move much more into the practical side of managing a business and the systems. And I want to show you guys some really concrete examples of how I use these systems and the best ways sort of to get started and to move forward. One of the things that for me is really important in terms of business management is to make your systems work together. So that can be in a very organic way, and it can be through automation. So I'm going to show you once I start sharing my screen with my systems, how that can happen in a very organic way, which is really just looking into the capabilities of the systems that you're using and what they already work with and connect with. So for example, Asana, you can integrate it with Google Calendar. Slack, you can integrate it with Asana. So these systems can work together with other systems that you're already using. So that saves time, it saves money, it saves headaches and stress, and everything is connected, and it just makes for a much more efficient flow. And then you can do it also through automations with a system that is called Zapier, if you haven't heard of it before. And Zapier is a system that allows you to connect systems together that don't already integrate with each other. So for example, Zapier, let's say you have an online store and you sell products, and every time something is sold on your website, you want to get like a notification or a ping to take a certain action. So maybe maybe every time a product is sold, you want to get a task assigned to yourself to let you know that you have one less of those products in your store. So maybe you need to stock up or something like that. So you can use Zapier to create that automation. So you can tell Zapier, for example, every time someone buys a product on my website, assign a task in Asana for the day of and assign it to me or assign it to my operations manager or whatever like that. So there's a lot of ways that you can start to get your business kind of working for you without you needing to do so many manual things. We're going to be looking at streamlining workflows and automations. We just talked about, we're going to dive particularly into some workflows and look at that. And just some best practices, which is always about, for me, being proactive and thinking about the next step. So when you're taking care of a task in your business management system, how can you already prepare the next tasks that are coming with it so that they're ready and waiting for you in there and they have a date and it's assigned to somebody and like everything is there, instead of just dealing with what's right in front of you, doing a little bit of short-term planning and seeing how you can already get the flow prepared for the next steps that need to happen in the process. And now we're going to go just right into the virtual tour. So I'm going to give you guys a behind the scenes, and we're just going to move out of this slideshow. This is the last slide, and we're going to be sharing this whole slideshow with you guys. And this is where I put all of the resources for you. And if you click on them on the slide, it'll open up to the actual website for you to go take a look. Okay. So let's start with Slack. I'm just going to move you guys over here a little bit. So Slack is the communication system that I was talking to you about. And can you guys just confirm that you can see my virtual tour in the chat? Just want to make sure you're seeing it. Great. Can see but small. Yeah, I know it's a little bit small. I don't know. Maybe let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Oh, no. I don't think I can zoom. I wish I could make this bigger for you guys, but I think that is as big as I can go. I might be able to go bigger when we go into Asana. Okay, no worries. Okay, so this is Slack. So one of the things that I want to mention that I really love to do is I like for my projects or categories in Slack to match my projects and categories in Asana, and to also match my categories and projects in Google Drive, meaning that everything is kind of mirroring itself. So it makes it very easy to navigate all of the content of your business, because your business is a very big ecosystem, and the more it grows, the bigger the ecosystem is going to be and the more details they're going to be. Now, obviously, I don't have like fun and team care stuff in Asana. These are a couple of extra ones I have in here. But when you are in Slack, you can create channels of communication. And so I have, admin and operations, client services, community care, content, events, fun, general, marketing and publicity. And so we have all of these channels in here. So let's say someone on my team has a question for me about something that's happening in my podcast. They are going to go into the podcast channel, and they are going to ask the question here. So as you guys can see, this is our stream of communication related to the podcast. And so everything is happening in the right channel. Same thing if it's, anything else about the business, tech and systems, this goes in this channel. And so we keep things very categorized. which makes it easy also if you're searching for something after, at least it's already pre-categorized. Now you can search in Slack, which is really great. So, you know, if you're like, oh, someone was working on this thing, and you search podcast, Slack is going to show you everything that has gone through the channels that was talking about podcasts. So the search feature is very easy. Now you also have private messages in here. So if you want to message someone privately on the team, you can do that. This is honestly, I've worked on a lot of teams. I've worked on, you know, with startups and also very big businesses making up to 7 figures a year with much larger teams. And Slack is really, really the most efficient system I have seen for really great communication and to keep the business streamlined. Now, before I was telling you guys how you can kind of organically make the systems work together. So Slack has some integrations. You can integrate Google Calendar, Zoom, Asana. Asana for me is the most essential one to integrate into Slack, because if someone on the team is talking about something, and let me just go to podcast here. So let's say I don't have a lot of time. I'm, you know, rushing through some things, and I'm like, hey team, I need you guys to please publish this podcast, or please email this client, or please do this thing. You ideally don't want to leave tasks just hanging out in Slack without having a place and a purpose, like we were talking about before. So what you want to do, and this, I would empower the team members to do this for themselves, is they would go over to the task and they would click create a task. And this is going to, test task. I assign it to myself. I find the project. So right from Slack, I can categorize this in Asana, and it pulls through the entire message request thing that needs to be done. And I just click create, and it goes right into my Asana. So I don't lose anything. And then it keeps things really streamlined in the business. So yeah, I think, let me just see if there was anything else that I wanted to, and I mean, anything that you can connect and integrate with a system that you're already using, I would say do it, or at least explore to see what the capabilities are, so that it can just make things a lot more easy on your team and on your business, because you want to be making things easier on you as well. But if you can make things easier on your team, or find ways to make workflows a lot more efficient, that's always a plus. Okay, so this is Slack. Does anyone have any questions about Slack before I move on to Asana? There's a lot of things you can do in Slack. You know, you can respond to a comment. You can, you know, if you look at, yes, thanks. I mean, it is a nice tool. It's really, really fantastic. And like, I have a small team, we're only 3 people, and this is like foundational in our business. We use this all the time, and I would encourage you to try it, even if you have a really, really small team. Slack is actually free. So that's a really good question. Slack is free. There is a paid version, but I've never had to use the paid version, sorry. You can use Slack for free. Free alternative to Zapier? I don't think so. I haven't heard of a free. I know that there is a free way to use Zapier. It's limited, but you still can use it, I think, in a free way, unless they've changed that. But I used to use it without the paid version. So I do think that there is a possibility. Yeah, Slack is, honestly, I don't think you would ever need to pay for it, really. So let's move on to Asana, which is my favorite place in the whole world to spend time. I absolutely love Asana. And let me just see if I can make this a little bit larger for you guys. This is my menu. Yeah. Is this better? Can you guys see it a little bit bigger now? I think it's a little bit bigger. Great. Okay. So what I love about Asana is that it's not just a project management system. It is a project management system. It's a communication system, and it can be used as a resource center, and it can be used as a CRM also. There's a way to use this as a CRM for like a client management system as well. So it's really efficient, and it allows you to do a lot of different things. And again, like trying to keep things, here, admin and operations, like I try as much as possible to keep things matching in all the systems. So it just makes navigation very easy. So in Asana, you have down here on the left, you have all of these different projects. So you can create projects in your business, depending on what, what kind of business you have and what's happening. I have like my main projects, admin and operations. This is one of my services. I have a content calendar. I have a content project, podcast, tech and systems. And it just makes it a lot more easier to manage things instead of having everything all in one place. And it creates a lot less overwhelm because you can look at the ecosystem of the business per section. I always like to have an idea board running in Asana so that as the business owner, as I get creative ideas, I can just drop things in there and then do something with it later. And then I have client projects for my clients as well. Up here, you have the home dashboard, which just kind of shows you an overview of like the recent projects, upcoming tasks that you might have and stuff like that. And then this is where you have your task list. So, just anything that is assigned to you that is coming up, you can search your tasks by due date, by project, whatever that is. And then the inbox is probably one of the most important places for communications, because the inbox is where you're going to see everything that happened in the business that day. So I can see the tasks that my team worked on. I can see any comments that they've made for me. So here I can see they've tagged me in a task and they're asking me probably to look at to review something. And as you can see in the, so this is an actual task in Asana. So you have the task name, you have the person that it's assigned to, you can select whoever that goes to, you can select the date that the task is due. And you can also make tasks recurring, which is really great. So you can make tasks recurring weekly. You can choose, weekly on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can choose monthly, yearly, periodically, or custom. So this is really great for like things that happen in your business on a regular basis. So for example, I don't know, let's say you have to pay taxes every 3 months. You can set up a recurring task in Asana to remind you to do that every 3 months. So you don't have, this is where I hope you can start to see like all of this stuff that a business owner has stuck in their head and they're worried about forgetting or, not getting to or not taking care of. All of that it's like getting it out of your head and into a system and automating it and systemizing it as much as you can. So you don't even have to worry about it anymore. And so you just see all of the activity that has happened during the day here, and you can look, and this is where you can get your own kind of daily update as well to see what happened in your business. Okay, very important. I'm just seeing here, Veronica, if you had to choose only one system for your business, I would choose Asana to start 110%, because Asana offers all of it. Like I said, the communication, the business management, the task management, client management, and you can have really clear, streamlined communications. Yeah, so I would definitely go with Asana if you were going to choose just one. I encourage, like, the projects you're going to have in here for your business, you're going to get to choose those, however makes sense for your business ecosystem. I always recommend that everyone has a business HQ, business headquarters project. And this is where you're going to have all of the most important information and assets for your business. So here you can have your vision, your mission statement, your values. I don't have anything in here right now because I'm rebranding. You can have cards here for your team. So, you know, you have everyone on your team, and in there you can have, you know, their birth date. I'm just going quickly so you don't see their personal address, but you can just have everything in here for each team member. So if ever you need to communicate with someone or send a team member a gift or a document, everything is in there. I always like to put all of the branding assets in the business HQ so that the team has access to everything really easily. And what's also great is that, let's say I go into admin and operations, and let's just pretend I'm creating a task. And I say, please create visual for social media post. And then I go into my task details and I can say, Elisa, please do X, Y, Z and use our new logo. And then I can tag the task that has the logo. Let's just pretend it's this task. I can tag the task that has the logo in it. So when she goes to her task, all she needs to do is click on it and she goes right to the asset that she needs for her task. And just while we're in here, I want to show you also that you can create subtasks to a task. So if you have a main task, and then there's a lot of different steps that happen, you know, within that task, you can create subtasks and assign it to people with a due date. And then this is the, I guess what you could call like the chat box, the comment box. This is where all communications related to that tasks stay within the communications of that tasks. And so you can then follow the history of, you know, what happened on the team, any questions and all that stuff. So it makes for really, really efficient business management. Okay, I'm just gonna check this off as done. Branding, you can have, you know, any tools and resources that are the team can use or that the team needs to use for the business. Any important links can be in here. I have like some of my media features, all important links go in here so it's easy to access. Offers, SOPs, we have our SOPs in here. So I was telling you before to create SOPs as like Google Docs, which I still recommend, but I also recommend adding the SOPs to Asana, because if you're assigning a task to someone in the team and you want to tell them to review this SOP to know how to do a certain thing, you can just tag that task in the main task and they get access to it right away. And then you can just put the link to the Google Doc SOP right in the task. We do our SOPs very much through video tutorials. So we have Loom videos. Loom is a really good tool to just create videos for your clients or your team members. So this is an example of Asana being used as like a resource center. Okay, so these tasks we wouldn't necessarily check off because we want them to stay here. So you'd use this check mark when you're actually completed a task and you want it to kind of go away. And they never go away completely because you can always view tasks that you have completed in the past. So you never lose anything in Asana, which is really fantastic. And you have the option, depending on just like visually how you really like to see things in a business, you can look at your project as a board, as a list view. So my brain very much likes list view. You can just do an overview, and you can also see it as a timeline. No, this is the paid version. So Asana again can be used for free unless you start to have a really large team. There are some premium features, but like I've never used this, for example. And the other thing that's really great is you can look at a project in a calendar view. So if you want to see like the month ahead and the tasks, you can look at in a calendar view, which is really great. And then this is an example of a list view. So you have you can create a task, or you can create an actual category. So I like to split things up by categories. So in my admin and operations, I have a section for it. Every one of my projects in Asana always has an admin section. And then I have a section for Slack, team management, Google Drive, and email calendar management. And so you can really split a project up by section, which makes it really easy as well. Okay, the other way you can use it is you could either create a project per client if you have like a service-based business, or even a product-based business. Sometimes it's nice to have our client roster somewhere. Because I'm a service-based business, I like to have a project per client. But if I had a product-based business, I would probably create one project called client roster or CRM. And then each section within would be my client name. So client A, client B, client C. And then within the client, if I go down here, within the client folder, I always have a section for my client info. So their contact card, their social media links, their email, if ever I need to contact them. And then you can just have like any tasks related to that client, any follow-up stuff that you want to do with them if you have follow-up emails or whatever. Yeah, I think that's it for like the general overview. What I want to finish with is showing you guys an example of a workflow that can really, really make your life so much easier. So see, this is my test task that I put in from Slack before. So I'm a big fan of prepping things in advance so that you don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time you need to go through a whole workflow in your business. So I'm using my example of the podcast, but you could very much use this for, let's say, every time you need to restock products in your business, or every time you sell a product to a client, or I don't know, it can be really anything. So for me, every time I publish a podcast, there is a whole long process that I need to go through from beginning until end when it's actually out on social media. So I created a podcast template. So every time I have a new podcast, I go here and I duplicate this task, and it makes me a new version that I can then use. So I would rename it, obviously, XYZ. And then I have all of my core information in the description for what my team needs. This is where I put the recording link, the audio, all that stuff, the publishing date. And then these are all of the subtasks. This is every single thing that needs to happen every time we put a podcast out. So I don't need to recreate these tasks every single time. They're in here already. So all I need to do is assign the main task to the person who starts the workflow, which is Elisa. And then from here, Elisa takes it from here. She starts her workflow. Once she gets to Maggie, she then assigns this part to Maggie. Maggie goes through her workflow. Once she gets to me needing to review, she then assigns the next task to me or Elisa. And we do that until the whole process is done, until the end. We're sure to never forget anything. It takes away so much time and effort and money, because the time that you are putting into your business or that you're paying your team is money as well. And it just makes your life easier. And as your business grows, you want ideally to have workflows like this preset up so that you can just duplicate and do it over. Let's say you would have a marketing campaign that you're doing, and every single time it's the same process. you could create a project called, social media marketing campaign. And you could do the same thing within the project. You could create your whole marketing campaign with the sections and the tasks and all that stuff. And then you could, can't remember exactly where this is. Yeah, here. Well, you could either just duplicate the project every time, so you don't have to recreate the whole marketing campaign and all the tasks that go with it. Or where is it? Oh, here. You can save layout as default, or you can convert to a template. So you can create, the whole project once, and then you create a template out of it. And then every time you redo your marketing campaign, you then just use that template, and it's like your whole workflow is there. You don't need to think about it. You just need to actually start to get into the workflow with your team. So very efficient as well. I think that is all. Yeah, I think we've really gone through what I wanted to show you guys, which was most relevant. Obviously, there is so much you can do with all of these systems. But as a getting started, if you're not set up yet, I would say start with this, and then you're just going to build on it, as you move forward and as your business grows. So I'm going to stop my share screen. And I know there's a couple of people who just popped in. We're actually just coming to the end of the webinar, so I don't know if maybe I think maybe the time might have got confused, but we have this recorded, and we're going to be sharing the recording and the resources. Is there a template there, or did you create? I created that from scratch. Yeah, I created all of this from scratch. No worries, Liliana, it's all good. But I just want you to know that you'll have the recording so you can rewatch. And the link to the recording and the all of the resources are going to be shared in ecomConnect on the newsfeed after the event. So please make sure to go in the platform. I'm going to be posting probably later today or tomorrow, everything in there so you can access. And we're just going to open it up to questions now to see if anyone has any questions. You can either pop your question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. No questions? Does this feel encouraging or overwhelming? Yes, you can watch. You can download the recording and rewatch later. Absolutely. Yes, encouraging. Good. I believe yes, you can connect with Outlook. So actually, that's a really good question. Something I forgot to show you guys. You're using Workspace. Do you really need Asana? If it's working for you, maybe not. If you feel very organized and things are in order, and just like you're in flow with your business, maybe not. If you feel like there's bottlenecks and there's things that are still not being tended to in a way that feels good to you, then maybe you could try to use Asana. I'm going to keep you guys here for a sec. I do want to open up the poll so you can answer a couple of questions, but I want to show you one more thing. One of the features that I really love about Asana is the My Tasks feature. So if you go to My Tasks, you can sync to your calendar. So you can sync here to Outlook. So yes, it does sync with Outlook or Google Calendar or iCal. And what that does is any tasks that are assigned to you in Asana will show up in your calendar, which is really nice, because then like I know that for me, I very much use my calendar as like when I start my day to look at like, what do I need to do today? And what do I need to take care of? What meetings do I have? So I always see my Asana tasks in my calendar, and you can click on your Asana task from your calendar and it'll open up into Asana. So really, really efficient. Okay, so I'm just going to open, we have a quick poll if you guys don't mind. It's literally like maybe 30 seconds. If you can just answer a couple of questions for us, that would be really great. So I'm going to launch the poll right now. Yes, so you should be able to see it. So if you guys can just pop those questions in really quick, that would be amazing. And in the meantime, while we're doing that, if you have any other questions, you can pop them into the chat as well. Can everyone see the poll? Yes, I see people are answering. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Hi, Edgar. So nice to see you. Sorry, I didn't, I think you popped in a bit later, so I didn't see you.
Yeah, how are you going?
I'm good. How are you?
As great as usual.
Oh, that's great. That's really good. Oh, yes, Liliana, no worries. I actually think that it can't be answered after, but no worries, it's totally fine. I see Mary Jean or Mary Jane. Is that a hand up? Yes, do you want to ask something? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. I think that maybe what I found overwhelming was all the subtasks.
Yeah.
And where does one find out a list to make sure that one covers all those specific things, whether it's making a podcast or a video or
Yeah. So I guess the quick answer is that you'll never be able to see it and know it all. And I actually think that as a business owner, it's good to not be able to see and know it all, because then it's like we get lost in that. But the best way to be aware of it is to actually assign yourself a main task, so you can assign yourself a main task. And then if you go into my tasks, you can see the main tasks there. And then within the main task, you'll see your subtasks there.
so is that already populated with subtasks?
Yes. Well, hang on, sorry, can you ask that question again?
When you go into main tasks and you see subtasks, does it just specify open fields with subtask, or would you need to then work out yourself what the subtasks would be?
No, they'll show in your tasks. So when you go into my task list, all of those tiny little subtasks will show in your task list. So you don't have to worry about going to like search for them. They're going to be right there for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came when you were still busy with the bottlenecks before you started the trust issue, and that individual genius. Did you create that, or was that someone else who came up with that?
Well, the zone of genius thing is something that is been out in the business vocabulary.
Well, I haven't come across it.
Yeah, for a very long time. But
well, we probably grew up in different places.
Yes, maybe. But I definitely very much use the strategy of like defining each individual's zone of genius within the business. Like for me, that's really important, because these people in your business are like a real asset, and when you really define what their zone of genius is and what they do best in their most natural state, you can leverage that, and it can really have such a huge impact on your business. And it also then releases the pressure of the business owner of like feeling like you need to do and know everything, right? Like they can hold that responsibility as well.
Yeah, my brother was terribly disorganized, but he got for himself a PA, and in South Africa, she won the National PA of the Year.
Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's doing exactly what you said. You know, you employ the people to do what you can't do.
Exactly. And that's a really interesting point, because sometimes we try to fit people into boxes in roles in our business. But if you try to take, would you say it's your brother?
Yeah.
Right. So if you would try to bring, let's say, your brother into like the business management role in your business, it would be a disaster, because that's not his zone of genius. He probably has a different, he probably works like in a very messy way, but he has something else that is really powerful in him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was his innovation.
Exactly. And someone who's into innovation and creative stuff, they're not going to be, or they need someone to organize them, actually.
Yeah.
But they're very much the brains behind ideas and projects, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thank you for your input.
You're so welcome. It's a pleasure being here. Oh, I see so many people coming in. I think there was a confusion with the time. Is there any other questions? No, we're good. All right. Well, if we are good from here, I will let you guys continue off into your day. And yeah, just keep an eye out on the ecomConnect platform. If you're not already in there already, you can go sign up for free on ecomconnect.org, and we will be posting on the newsfeed all of the resources and the recording, so you can access that after. Thank you so much for showing up. And, you know, obviously I'm your community manager. So if you have any questions for me, you can just send me a message in ecomConnect or comment on the post, and I'll be happy to follow up with anything. You're so welcome. You're welcome. It was nice being here with you guys. So I'm going to stop.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
You're so welcome. Thanks for coming. It's nice to see some familiar faces. Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Well, good night for me.
Yes, good night. Sorry, it's morning here, but good night for you. Bye.
Good night,
guys.
Jen.
Good night. Bye, everyone.